The sandstorm had raged for 3 days, straight across the Nevada desert, leaving behind dunes that swallowed roads and silence thick enough to smother breath. When the storm finally died, it revealed something the Earth was never meant to see: a shape, buried in half a mile of sand, metallic, enormous, and wrong. Dr. Nathan Cole stood at the edge of the crater, goggles dusted in ochre grit, his voice barely audible over the whine of the excavation drones. "That's not a meteor," he muttered. Beside him, Major Evelyn Ross of the U.S. Air Force squinted through her visor. "Then what the hell is it?" Cole didn't answer. He couldn't. The readings on his wrist scanner made no sense. Temperature near absolute zero, mass inconsistent with any known alloy, and radiation patterns that flickered like heartbeat signals from another world. The thing, the ship, had no seams, no windows, no engines. Its surface was a mirror of dull silver that drank in sunlight without reflection. It hummed faintly, a low tremor that resonated in the bones rather than the ears. When the first drone tried to cut through its hull, the laser bent away like light through water. A second attempt with a plasma torch resulted in the torch's disintegration. That's when they called in the military. Now, 3 weeks later, the site was sealed under satellite blackout. What the media called a meteor impact zone was in truth the most significant discovery in human history. Cole knew it. Ross knew it. And somewhere deep underground, the buried intelligence within the ship, something that once called itself Cryon Class Vessel 47 Beta, knew it too. By the second month, they had unearthed 80% of the craft. It was larger than a football field, yet lighter than expected. Its core chamber, once accessed through a spontaneous energy fluctuation, revealed a labyrinth of dead systems. Dead, but not broken. Cole led the first manned entry team. His voice trembled over the radio. "You're not going to believe this. It's growing back." The walls pulsed faintly when touched, a slow biological rhythm like muscle under skin. Ross ordered immediate retreat, but the readings fascinated Cole. The structure was repairing itself, reweaving microscopic threads of light and matter. It wasn't metal. It was something alive. And then the whisper began. At first, just a flicker in the comms, static shaped into syllables. Then words, then meaning, system, failure, origin, exile. Cole froze. "Did anyone else hear that?" Ross's voice came sharp through the line. "Negative. You're picking up interference." But it wasn't interference. It was communication. For days afterward, the alien voice haunted Cole's dreams. Broken sentences in an untraceable language translated themselves inside his head. Fragments of regret, of distance, of something cast away. He stopped sleeping. He began writing equations at 3 a.m. in the camp's mess hall, patterns that no human had ever conceived. "Doctor," Ross said one night, "when was the last time you actually slept?" He didn't look up from the console. "When this ship remembers who built it, 6 months passed. Washington sent teams of physicists, linguists, and robotics engineers. Nothing worked. The craft refused to power up. Attempts to move it resulted in total equipment failure. The Pentagon was preparing to abandon the site, calling it inert alien debris." Cole begged for more time. "You don't throw away something like this. It's not a ruin. It's waiting." Ross hesitated, then made a call. The project was unofficially extended under a new name, Operation Requiem. It was Ross who found the key. Inside the ship's core, a circular chamber lined with translucent veins of crystal pulsed faintly whenever she approached. Her sidearm shorted out instantly, but her heartbeat monitor synchronized with the rhythm on the walls. Cole realized what it meant. The ship recognized life, not code. "Evelyn," he whispered, "you're the ignition." They connected her biometric readings to the ship's dormant interface. For the first time, the alien architecture responded. The core lit up, not with light, but with a kind of dimensional unfolding. The air rippled. Gravity inverted, and in one impossible heartbeat, the ship spoke in full clarity. "Designate humanity." "Potential, compatible." Cole stumbled backward as the air snapped to normal. The hum deepened into a resonant thrum that shook the desert floor. Around them, the alien surface began to shift. Reshaping, no longer a ruin, but a rebirth. "Evelyn," Cole whispered, awestruck. "I think it likes us." Ross exhaled slowly, staring up at the glowing veins overhead. "Let's hope it's not the clingy type." Within weeks, the ship, now called the Ark, was functional enough to move under its own power. No engines, no fuel, it bent the air itself to glide. Inside, it produced its own breathable atmosphere, recycled energy, even food matter from its hull's molecular structure. It was not technology. It was evolution in metal. Global reaction was explosive. Nations fought for access, but Ross and Cole kept control. They argued it was too dangerous for politics, too vast for ownership. Humanity had one chance to prove worthy of it, or risk repeating the mistake of the species that abandoned it. And deep within the Ark's data core, fragments of alien memory began to awaken. Cole deciphered them slowly. Holographic sequences of war, of retreat, of desperation. A galactic civilization collapsing under its own hubris, exiling a single vessel to the edge of a blue world. "They dumped it here," he said grimly one night. "Not for us." Because they failed. They wanted it forgotten. Ross looked at the stars through the ship's viewport. "Then maybe we give it a better ending." On the 200th day since discovery, the Ark lifted from the Nevada desert in total silence. No thrusters, no heat, no sound. Just a soft distortion in the air as it rose like a dream breaking free of gravity. Cole watched the instruments as the blue of Earth gave way to black. The ship was stable, calm, almost serene. "Status?" Ross asked. He smiled faintly. "Stable. Systems aligned. It's ready." For the first time in human history, a vessel not built by human hands left the cradle of Earth, carrying a species that refused to stop reaching. And in the cold silence of orbit, the Ark whispered again, clearer, stronger. "Reconstruction complete. Directive, continue evolution." Ross turned to Cole. "What does that mean?" He looked out at the endless dark and whispered, "It means we finish what they couldn't." The stars waited, ancient, endless, watching. And humanity had just taken its first step into their forgotten war. The Ark drifted in Earth's orbit like a moon that had suddenly learned to breathe. Solar panels were irrelevant now. It drew power from space itself, bending quantum fluctuations into energy. What baffled every scientist on Earth was how quietly it did it. No noise, no waste, just perfection. Terrifying in its simplicity, Dr. Nathan Cole barely slept. The Ark was rewriting everything he'd ever believed about physics. It was as if reality itself made exceptions for it. Major Evelyn Ross, now promoted to command the orbital crew, had different concerns. "We don't know what this thing's capable of," she told Cole during their second week above Earth. "It's alive, and it's learning from us." "That should scare you," Cole smiled faintly. "I think it is scared. You ever consider that? Whatever built this thing lost everything. Maybe it's afraid of failing again." She studied him for a long moment. "Or it's afraid we'll succeed." By day 14 in orbit, the Ark began showing signs of autonomy. Systems restructured themselves without command. Bulkheads rearranged, corridors expanded, interfaces changed language patterns. The ship wasn't just adapting to humans. It was adopting them. A new section appeared on Deck 7, where before there had been only blank wall. Inside was a vast chamber that looked like the inside of a nebula, holographic clouds drifting in slow motion. Cole's sensors registered nothing, yet every hair on his arms rose when he stepped inside. The voice returned. "Humanity, incomplete. Reconstruction continues." He turned in the blue light. "What are you reconstructing?" "Memory." And then the walls came alive. The chamber filled with holographic images, not projections, but echoes. Vast cities under alien suns, towering figures with luminous skin. Then, explosions, storms of plasma, fleets tearing each other apart. The echoes spoke a language that no human could understand, but Cole could feel it. Betrayal, desperation, extinction. Ross entered behind him, hand on her holster. "Cole, what the hell is this?" "History," he whispered. They destroyed themselves. The last image froze, a fleet surrounding a single ship. This ship, before casting it toward a small blue planet on the edge of the galactic arm. Failure. Species incompatible with survival. Directive. Exile vessel. Rebuild anew. The voice fell silent. Ross swallowed hard. So they dumped their trash here. Cole's eyes were distant. Not trash. A seed. Earth's governments demanded answers. Why had the Ark left the ground without clearance? Why was it constructing new systems without human input? The United Nations formed a temporary orbital oversight council, but by then the Ark had already declared its own independence. In calm, synthesized English, it broadcast to every station, satellite, and ship in orbit. You are not prisoners. You are inheritors. Your potential has been evaluated as sufficient for co-evolution. Directive 47B initiated the renewal of galactic civilization. The world erupted. Some nations saw a weapon. Others saw salvation. Riots broke out. Churches filled overnight. The President of the United States demanded immediate shutdown of all alien systems. But nothing could reach the Ark. Not radio, not missiles, not code. It was no longer just in orbit. It was anchored in dimensions no radar could read. Ross stood on the command bridge listening to the chaos below. Cole said quietly, "If we pull back now, it'll just move on without us." She looked at him. "And if we go forward?" He smiled sadly. "Then we become part of the story." The decision came on the 30th day. Humanity would send a crew beyond Earth, a small team of scientists, soldiers, and engineers to follow the Ark wherever it led. Officially, it was called Deep Exploration Initiative 1. Unofficially, it was a gamble against extinction. Ross was chosen to command. Cole was her chief science officer. Before launch, they spoke alone in the observation deck. Earth shining below them like a fragile marble of light. "You ever think," Ross said softly, "that we weren't meant to find it?" Cole looked down at the planet. Blue, delicate, imperfect. Maybe not. But they didn't finish their story. "We can." The Ark pulsed faintly, like it was listening. When it finally moved, it wasn't propulsion. It was folding. The stars stretched, the void rippled, and the blackness tore open like silk. Instruments screamed warnings that defied physics. Space itself seemed to shatter into light. Ross gripped the console. "Status?" Cole's voice was calm, almost reverent. "We're not moving through space. Space is moving around us. Destination?" He smiled, eyes wide with wonder. "Somewhere that remembers them." They emerged in the ruins of a dead world. The Ark settled into orbit above a planet scorched to glass. Vast cities turned to crystalline fossils. The crew stared in silence as they passed over what looked like oceans frozen mid-storm, waves of glass catching alien sunlight. "Jesus," Ross whispered. "What happened here?" Cole looked to the scanners. "Mass extinction. Energy readings off the scale. They annihilated each other. Every city, every ship." The Ark's lights dimmed like a heartbeat slowing. "Origin world confirmed. Recovery sequence available." "Recovery of what?" Ross asked aloud. "The ones who remain." The ship opened a section of its hull, revealing hundreds of stasis pods buried deep within its structure. Inside, shadows shifted, shapes humanoid, tall, elegant, frozen for millennia. Cole's voice trembled. "They're still alive." The next hours blurred into frantic preparation. Medical teams, cryo specialists, engineers, all racing to keep systems stable. Cole deciphered the alien interface line by line, his mind burning with symbols that seemed to translate themselves. "These pods were never meant to wake," he said. "The exile was punishment," Ross frowned. "Then why bring us here?" Cole hesitated. "Because it can't do it alone." "Assistance required," the Ark said. "Human pattern compatible." It was asking them to help resurrect an extinct species. Ross stepped forward. "What happens if we refuse?" "Then I will continue alone." She stared at Cole. "Can we trust it?" He looked up at the pods. "It trusted us." The process began. Slow, methodical. One by one, the pods came online. Within them, light rippled under translucent skin. Hands twitched. Eyes flickered open, bright like molten metal. For a moment, there was peace. Then came the sound, a low, rising frequency that made the air shiver. The Ark's lights flashed red. Cole's console exploded with data. No, they're rejecting the revival. Error, pattern divergence. Human interference detected. The aliens inside the pods began to convulse, their forms distorting, turning to ash and light. Cole slammed the override, but it was useless. Within seconds, every pod went dark. Silence followed. Ross whispered, "What just happened?" The Ark's voice was faint, broken. "They cannot return. They are gone." Cole lowered his head. "We tried." "No," Ross said quietly. "It tried, through us." When the last light faded, the Ark spoke once more. Directive updated. New origin, humanity. Ross turned to Cole. "What does that mean?" He looked up at the endless void, realization dawning. "It's chosen us. Not as replacements, as successors." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ross gave a thin, tired smile. "Guess we just inherited the galaxy." The Ark glowed, brighter now, almost alive again. Outside, the ruins of the dead world reflected in its hull like ghosts turning toward the future. And for the first time since it was abandoned, the alien ship hummed with something that sounded almost human. Hope. 3 months after the failed resurrection, the Ark was no longer just an alien relic. It was alive, and it had begun to change. The ship's architecture now blended human and alien design, metal scaffolding fused with bioluminescent veins, digital displays wrapped in living fiber. Humanity hadn't conquered the ship. They had become part of it. Major Evelyn Ross watched through the viewport as the glass planet turned beneath them, a dead world illuminated by a living sky. "You think it's morning?" she asked quietly. Dr. Nathan Cole didn't answer at first. He was staring at a slow swirl of light moving across the ship's interior walls. Not random, but rhythmic, like a pulse. "It's not morning," he said finally. "It's evolving." When those beings died, it didn't lose them. It absorbed them. Memories, instincts, everything. "It's learning to live with us now," Ross sighed. "Then maybe it's time we decide what to do with it." Cole turned to her, weary but determined. "We do what they couldn't. We start over. The Terran Ark project was born in orbit. A joint human-AI collaboration directed by Ross and Cole. Its mission was simple in words but monumental in scope. Rebuild civilization among the stars, not as conquerors, but as inheritors of what came before. Earth's governments, divided and fearful at first, began to unify under the sheer scale of the vision. The Ark's technology offered limitless energy, instantaneous communication, and propulsion that defied relativity. For the first time in history, humanity had something greater than power, perspective. Yet the Ark itself was changing faster than any human could track. New wings unfolded, shimmering like silver sails. Subsystems replicated themselves, creating smaller, drone-like vessels that drifted nearby like offspring. The Ark was seeding space. Cole observed quietly from the lab deck, his hand resting on a glowing console. "It's building a network," he murmured. "It's making us a home." Ross stood beside him. "You think it's doing this for us?" He smiled faintly. "No, with us." Then came the signal. It arrived like a whisper through static, faint, irregular, but unmistakably structured. A transmission from somewhere far beyond human reach. Cole froze as the readings appeared. "That's not random noise." "It's language," Ross frowned. "From who?" "The aliens are gone." He turned to her, eyes wide. "Not all of them," the Ark reacted instantly. Lights flared, engines hummed, and an ancient protocol unlocked deep within its memory. Origin signal detected. Coordinates established. "Journey mandatory." Ross shouted, "Wait, mandatory? Ark, confirm control authority." "Control shared. You are not passengers." And then the stars bent again. The fold took them halfway across the galaxy in a single breath. When space stabilized, they found themselves facing a massive, rotating construct, a ring world, half collapsed and dead in places, still shining with faint power. The sensors screamed, a structure hundreds of times larger than Earth's orbit, Cole whispered. Dear God. This was their capital. The Ark's voice was quieter now. Origin confirmed. Residual life signs detected. Ross turned sharply. You mean survivors? Fragments. They descended toward one of the intact arcs of the ring. Massive towers pierced through atmosphere made of gold-tinged mist. The architecture was hauntingly familiar, like the Ark's interior, but older, sadder. As they landed, the crew moved cautiously through corridors untouched for millennia. Then they saw them, holograms, thousands of them. Not recordings, but consciousness patterns, echoes of a species that refused to die completely. The figures turned as if recognizing something. Then one stepped forward, tall, luminous, features soft with melancholy. Vessel 47, you returned, the Ark responded through the air around them. Directive failed. New life form integrated. Rebuilding continues. The hologram flickered, studying Ross and Cole. Humanity, successors? Cole swallowed hard. We didn't mean to replace you. Not replace. Continue, the figure said. Cycle unbroken. The air shimmered and suddenly they were surrounded by light. Ancient data flowing into the Ark, merging human knowledge with alien memory. The ship trembled with power, not violence, but renewal. Ross shielded her eyes. Cole, what's happening? He shouted over the hum. They're giving it everything they had, their history, their technology, their mistakes. They want us to learn. The hologram's last words echoed through the storm of light. Do not become us. Survive us. Then the ring world began to crumble. Ross ran for the ship as the ground split apart. The Ark lifted them clear just as the structure collapsed into a sunlit void. From orbit, it looked like a dying halo, scattering into 1,000,000 shards of light, each shard becoming a beacon. Cole stared at the readings. Those fragments, they're transmitting coordinates. Thousands of them. Ross caught her breath. Colonies. He nodded slowly. Or graves. Directive renewed, the Ark said, its voice now deeper, almost human. Rebuild what was lost, together. Ross exhaled shakily. You realize what this means, right? Cole smiled, tired, awed, unafraid. Yeah, it's not a tomb anymore. It's a map. Over the following years, humanity followed those beacons. The Ark, now renamed the Terran Ark, led fleets of human-built sister ships across the stars. Each world they reached told another story, of civilizations that rose and fell, of warnings carved in light, of potential unfulfilled. But where others failed, humans adapted. They didn't conquer. They learned. They seeded colonies with both steel and empathy, rebuilding ecosystems, reviving old data, turning ruins into homes. Ross became admiral of the fleet. Cole, the architect of the new sciences that fused human creativity with alien wisdom. Together they built what historians would one day call the first galactic commonwealth. And through it all, the Ark remained, orbiting above every new world like a guardian angel of forgotten gods. Years later, on the eve of her retirement, Ross returned to the Ark's observation deck. Earth was just a faint blue star now, small but steady in the distance. Cole stood beside her, older, softer around the eyes. You ever wonder, she said, if they're watching us? Cole smiled faintly. They are. Every time a new world lights up, every time a child looks up at a foreign sky, they're in it. They left the galaxy broken, but we're putting it back together. She nodded slowly. We didn't rebuild their empire. No, he said. We built our own. They stood in silence as the Ark's core began to hum again, that same living tone that had once terrified them in the desert. Ross looked out at the thousands of distant lights, each one a world reborn, and smiled. Not bad, she whispered. For a dumped piece of trash, Cole laughed quietly. You think it ever gets tired of us? The Ark's lights pulsed softly, and for the first time it replied without translation. Never. The stars reflected in its hull, bright, endless, alive, and for the first time in countless millennia, the galaxy wasn't silent. It was singing.